Corporations are evil. At least that's the common sentiment these days. Big faceless conglomerates control many of the products we use day to day, underpay their staff, and even carry out questionable practices all in the name of the almighty dollar. If fiction does mirror reality, does that mean that the biggest company in Star Rail, the IPC, are also evil? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Who are the IPC? What departments do they have? What's going on with their founder? And most importantly, are they secretly evil? Before we dive into the IPC corporate structure, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Let me start this video off with why the IPC were even formed, because a long time ago, they weren't all about the money. The IPC were once followers of the Aeon Clipoth and the path of preservation. I mean, they still are, but they weren't known as the IPC when they first formed. Initially, the members of the would-be IPC were made up of a small group calling themselves Clipoth's support team. In their earlier days, they had observed Clipoth moving around the universe building its great galactic constructs and figured it was on an important mission. In an attempt to assist this god, the first few members sourced, collected, and gave construction materials to Clipoth as a tribute. Eventually, their little logistics operation grew larger and larger, and as they began sourcing for more materials, they had to venture out into other parts of the greater universe. The issue was that bartering can only get you so far, and other civilizations valued trade items differently, making it challenging to consistently collect materials to give to Clipoth. To remedy this, Louis Fleming and Dongfang Qixing, their leaders at the time, realized that in order to make trades more efficient, they needed to standardize transactions. This was how the credit was first developed. It was a tool that allowed them to trade far more efficiently, but more importantly, because the credit was so widely used, it catapulted them from being some small, unimportant faction to the biggest and wealthiest conglomerate in the universe, the IPC. While the group started off with material acquisition and logistics, the IPC that we know of today has expanded to far more business areas. Currently, the IPC is made up of a board of directors, which are the overall leadership of the company, and a total of 7 departments that each run a different aspect of the conglomerate. The departments we are currently aware of right now are the Traditional Projects Department, Business Consolidation, Building Material Logistics, Marketing Development, Strategic Investment, Technology, and finally, the Talent Motivation Department. Now, I won't dive too deeply into each of these, but I'll just talk about them in general as they're pretty interesting overall. Let's start with the Traditional Projects Department, which has a pretty vague description but seems to be involved in businesses that already exist for the IPC and are helmed by seasoned veterans of those business types. It's unclear what these businesses are, but the impression that I get is they carry out day-to-day businesses that every person in the universe might need, like logistics or fast-moving consumer goods. The next department is the Business Consolidation Department. So, sometimes in business, especially during a growth period, a company might develop departments or products that serve overlapping clients and markets. Business consolidation traditionally tries to reorganize these functions under one roof so it's easier to manage. Based on the description we get from the trailer, this department seems to focus on building a connected system of trade that allows planets or even multiplanetary civilizations to trade with each other efficiently. Since the IPC focuses a lot on distributing credit and buying construction material, I suspect streamlining these particular functions is what this department actually aims to do, with the beneficial side effect of improving the business interactions of others in the meantime. Next up, we have the Building Material Logistics Department, which likely serves the original founder's goal in getting materials to Clipoth for its celestial constructs. They actually view this department as one of the cornerstones of the IPC, given their origin. From the trailer, it seems to imply that this department may actually know where Clipoth resides and actively flies materials to the god itself. It's also likely that given their varied business practices, this department will also be involved with distributing building material for the IPC's own infrastructure development. The Marketing Development Department seems to be mostly in charge of spreading the services the IPC has to the wider universe, specifically to get new customers to opt in for the use of credits. Marketing usually relates to building a connection between the company and their clients, whether it be current or future ones, so I imagine it's the same here in the Star Rail universe. In the strategic investment department, where our good friend Topaz works, they seem to mostly focus on finding new avenues of income and figuring out if there are ways to monetize something newly discovered. This was the department that were looking to make use of Belobog as a workforce and will also be present in Penacony through another member of its department, Aventurine. The technology department is functionally the R&D team of the IPC and helps build and develop technology or equipment that the IPC themselves can use or perhaps can sell to others. The Find D tech we see in Belobog is something they develop out of their own labs. I imagine them as focusing more on consumer electrics and technology, but likely also industrial equipment the other departments may need. They often team up with the Intelligentsia Guild in developing this new tech and often collaborate with Herta as well. Finally, we have the Talent Motivation Department, which is your typical HR. They find talent and arrange for intergalactic pizza parties after their employees have made the IPC trillions of credits. Jokes aside, they do seem to have a very comprehensive reward system and promotions hierarchy and likely are in charge of developing these systems for the many millions of people who work in the IPC. Among these departments, it's unclear whether any of them hold a higher authority within the company, as some of them appear far more crucial to the operations of the IPC than others. Each department head actually holds a seat on the board of directors and are functionally the governing council. We don't know how decisions are made though, but there are members who seem to have a lot more authority regardless of their ranks, such as the founder Louis Fleming. Speaking of ranks, much like any corporate structure, there are several ranks or grades associated for each employee. We know of a couple of them through text and interactions, but it seems that their ranking system uses a numbered tier system, going from the lowest employee possibly being at 1 to highest being at potentially 50. A P13 grade staff member is often office workers who handle odd jobs, while someone like Topaz is considered a senior manager at rank P44. In contrast, the head of Topaz's department, Diamond, is someone who holds a rank of P47. Each rank seems to have the authority to command those beneath them, though it does seem that there is some leeway as Topaz's consent was needed and Aventurine didn't seem like he could just command her after her demotion, despite him being a higher rank. Now, while the IPC may appear like your typical faceless evil corporation, it doesn't seem to be so black and white. Most of their members, especially the lower ranking ones, do value money above all else and join the IPC largely because of this, but some of their higher ranking members seem to try to do their best to uphold the virtues of preservation. Topaz, for example, was trying to save Belobog and saw her solution as just the best outcome until Bronya showed her an alternative. While her approach was questionable, her intentions weren't purely evil. Some of the higher ranking members also remind the board that at the end of the day, they still serve the Amber Lord and constantly remind them of their roots and origins. What's really mysterious about this group is their founder, Louis Fleming, who seemingly has some connection with another Eon altogether, the Eon of Remembrance, who had appeared in person during one of the founder's speeches. It even spoke to Louis, and weirder still, after talking to him, Louis has all but disappeared. What's even more mysterious is that despite constant reminders that Louis Fleming is indeed still around, no one has actually seen him or can confirm he is alive. The weirdness around these two events and the constant secrecy makes me think there's something happening in the background, especially since Fully only appears when the most critical and important events of the universe are taking place. Perhaps the IPC has a larger role to play in the future, or maybe Louis's disappearance triggers a significant change to the universe moving forward, but for now, it's not something we have info to dive into. As for whether the IPC itself is evil, it's rather difficult to answer. Because a lot of its members are motivated by the pursuit of wealth, I'm sure we will continue to see members who act in pretty crappy ways. But it does seem like their actions benefit the universe as well. They have introduced a centralized currency making trade easier, they have consolidated trading between many different planets, they facilitate the movement of goods and even distribute technology to the masses. In addition, while Qlipoth doesn't actually use the materials they gather, following the path of preservation should mean that their intentions are to uphold and defend those weaker than themselves and preserve the current state of the universe. So I'm inclined to believe that while some of their members may act in questionable ways, motivated mostly by greed, they are an entity that creates an overall net positive for the universe. Generally good, but definitely not totally innocent either. Let me know in the comments whether you think the IPC is overall good or just can't be trusted. If you enjoyed watching the video, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.